In today's video, we are going to be solving for the volume of a sphere. We talked about other figures, we talked about rectangular prisms, we talked about cylinders, talked about cones. Now we're going to get into spheres. So the volume of a sphere formula is 4/3 pi r cubed. So you really only have to know the radius in order to figure out the volume of a sphere. So in this problem, it says, what is the volume of a sphere with a radius of 6 centimeters? So what I'm going to do is plug in my numbers, 4/3 pi and 6 cubed. Okay. Now, sometimes they might ask for answers in terms of pi. Sometimes they might ask for answers rounded in an approximation. We're going to give both types of answers. Now, if you're doing this in terms of pi, you have to figure out what 4/3 times 6 cubed is. So if you have a calculator that shows parentheses, shows all the steps laid out, you just type in 4/3 times 6 cubed, right? So for example, the Desmos here. So 4 times 6, this is just for consistency purposes, cubed. Okay, 4/3 times 6 cubed is 288. So in terms of pi, my answer is 288 pi. Okay, so that's one answer. All right, now if I want it rounded, go back to my calculator, I have to throw the pi back in. So I put it right back in here, put it in, and I round it. It's 904. If I want to round it to the nearest tenth, it would be 904.8. So my approximation would also be, I'm just going to abbreviate, your approximation would be, what was it again? 904.8. Okay. So two different types of answers that could be asked, okay? Either in terms of pi, that means you don't include pi in your calculator, or an approximation where you do include pi in there, okay? So let's take a look at the next one. What is the volume of a sphere with the diameter of 9? So remember, the radius is half the diameter. So the radius is half the diameter, because the diameter is all the way through the circle. So it's half of 9, which is 4.5. So let's plug it in our formula. So I have our formula, 4/3 pi and then 4.5 cubed. All right, so I'm going to use my calculator again. I'm going to write it both terms. Let's see if it comes out to a nice decimal. 4.5 cubed. Okay, that's not bad. So if I wanted this in terms of pi, without the pi in the calculator, it's 121.5 pi. So was it 121.5 pi? Okay, that's the exact value in terms of pi. If I wanted an approximation, I would have to throw my pi in there, and 381.7. Okay, I'm rounding it to the nearest tenth. Okay, so just be careful. When it says diameter, just got to take half of it to find the radius. And let's do a hemisphere. So a hemisphere, there's actually two ways to do. You could find the volume of a sphere and then take half of it at the end, since hemi means half, right? Hemisphere is half of a sphere. So you could use the sphere formula and then divide it by 2 at the end. Or instead of finding the sphere formula, instead of 4/3, you could do 2/3. So your equation would be Instead of 4/3, it's 2/3 pi r cubed. Okay, now this one has a radius of 21.6. I'm going to see if that's going to come out to a nice decimal if I want to leave it in terms of pi. So I have to change this. Instead of 4/3, it's going to be 2/3. Okay, I'm going to see if I can do it in terms of pi. What was it again? It was 21.6. 21.6. And it's an ugly one. So I'm just going to round this one and just leave it to the nearest tenth. Okay, so we have 21,106.7. So again, using the calculator, knowing how to do this. Now, this calculator, it's nice where you can type it all out. If you have a calculator where you would have to type in step by step, you start off with the exponents first. And then, so I would do 21.6 cubed first, then times 2/3, then times pi. Okay, so again, it's all knowing your calculator and how to use it in order to get these answers. So 21,106.7. I'm going to put my approximation, that's a symbol. 21,106.7. Okay. And that's my approximation at the end. All right. So that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. And always remember, whether you're solving for X or Y, always give math a try.